Pain arrived before consciousness did. Not the sharp pain of a wound Thess had already closed. Not the same exhaustion that had rung in his bones like a bell struck too hard. This was interior, golden fractures along channels he had felt since Diamond, spreading and settling and spreading again. The sovereign core rearranging itself with the quiet insistence of something that had been waiting 300 years for a body patient enough to finish the conversation. Kael lay on the cot and breathed through it. The tent smelled of lamplight oil and the metallic residue of spent cores from a perimeter that had not yet learned celebration was permitted. Outside, cook fires violated Thess's 40-meter rule. Someone was arguing about supply manifests in a voice too tired for volume. Ordinary sounds. The world continuing. He opened his eyes. The ceiling canvas moved slightly with wind off the Kareth Ridge, gray light filtering through, neither dawn nor dusk, time suspended in the way field hospitals suspended time when the important patients had not yet declared their intentions. Thess looked up from a chart. You picked a dramatic week to reorganize. Kael's mouth was dry. He said, I didn't schedule it. No one schedules it. That's the complaint. She set down her pen. Can you feel your hands? He flexed fingers beneath the blanket edge. The motion cost something, not effort exactly, but negotiation between nerve and core. Yes. Can you feel the core? Unfortunately. Thess's expression did not change. Professional irritation, lightly applied. Good. Unfortunate means active. Active means you'll live. Sit up when you're ready. Don't sit up before you're ready. Seraphine will murder me if you crack something I declared stable. Kael turned his head. Seraphine sat in the chair at the cot's side, the chair Thess had placed there, the chair she had occupied through July 90H's first hour, and apparently through everything that followed. Her hands were still on the armrests. Her eyes had settled about 2 seconds before the rest of her face followed, the particular sequence that meant she had decided something and was now permitting the decision to become visible. She said, You're awake. Apparently. How much of the last 2 days do you retain? He considered. Memory arrived in fragments, the chamber, Valdorath's knee on black stone, the cracks in his chest, Seraphine's voice from a distance saying his name. Then darkness. Then this. Enough to be concerned about what I might be forgetting. She stood. Not quickly. The controlled rise of a woman who had been holding a position and was now releasing it because the position's purpose had been met. I chose you. We are together. You don't get to pretend you didn't hear that when you were unconscious. I heard. Good. A pause. Thus, he's conscious. Feed him when the core stops trying to reorganize his ribcage. Thess said, That's not how ribs work. It's how his work. Kael managed to sit. The motion sent a wave through the golden fractures, warmth and pressure, and the specific sensation of something that was also him becoming more present in a body that had been borrowed for heroics and was now presenting the invoice. He breathed through it the way he breathed through battlefield arithmetic. Count, file, continue. Seraphine handed him water. He drank. The cup was warm from her grip. He noticed that. He filed it in the place where he kept things that changed the map without changing the record. The first thing he did before food, before Thess's examination, before the Coalition's channel traffic could find him and convert waking into procedure, was ask for paper. Thess said, Absolutely not. Kael said, Valdorath's last words. Before distortion. Seraphine looked at him. The look that meant she understood the request's category without requiring the explanation. He was too tired to perform well. She said, Thess. Thess said, 5 minutes. Then I examine him. Then he eats. Then he sleeps again whether he wants to or not. Seraphine produced a field notebook and a pen from the kit she carried the way other people carried weapons, always, without announcement. She placed them on the blanket edge within reach of his right hand. Kael wrote. His handwriting was worse than usual, the core's reorganization interfering with fine motor control in ways that would have annoyed him if annoyance had been worth the energy. He wrote anyway. Precisely. The way Valdorath had spoken, not the way memory preferred to soften difficult intelligence. The Convergence is not a siege. It is pressure, exterior, directionless, accumulating along the field's weakest seams. Every 300 years, approximately. He paused. Checked the sentence against the chamber's memory. Continued. The unified empire I built was politically whole and spiritually hollow. The pressure found the hollow places. It pushed through. Not invasion. Penetration. The field tears where integration failed, where aura types refuse each other, where kingdoms hoard capacity, where demon and human territories treat the border as a wound instead of a membrane. His hand steadied as he wrote. The core's warmth pulsed once, not approval, not guidance. Presence. The relationship acknowledging that documentation was the correct first act. You cannot wall it. You cannot reset it. You must make the field whole in the way I failed to make it whole, not by subtraction. By connection that does not lie about difference. He closed the notebook. Seraphine said, complete. Complete enough to survive distortion. Then eat. Food was broth and hard bread thus, had confiscated from someone who had no business bringing luxury into a medical tent. Kael ate because eating was a task with a finish line, and finish lines were useful when the body's other projects refused to declare completion. Thus examined him with the focused irritation of a surgeon who treated emperors and barons with the same professional refusal to dramatize. She pressed along his ribs. Checked the golden fractures visible beneath his skin slower now, pulsing in patterns she had been sketching for 2 days. The core's reorganizing, not breaking. Same grammar as year 12. Worse numbers. She straightened. You'll manage it the way you managed year 12. Quietly. Without performing. If you perform, I'll sedate you for being tedious. I'll manage it. Good. She looked at Seraphine. He's functional. Annoying, but functional. Don't let him leave this tent today. I won't. Thus left to argue with someone about cook fire placement. The tent was quiet. Gray light strengthened toward afternoon. July 11th, he calculated, 2 days since the tomb. 2 days since Valdorath's signature dissolved into weather instead of will. 2 days since Seraphine had said I chose you to a man who might or might not hear. Kael said, tell me what I missed. Seraphine pulled the chair closer. She did not touch him. She did not need to. Proximity was sufficient, the particular closeness of two people who had decided to be in the same space and were still learning what that meant when the space was a medical tent instead of a command pavilion. The coalition holds. Kaelin's engineers mapped the tomb's outer ring. Veth verified Demon Peace faction boundaries on ground, not paper. The Order remnants fragmented without Valdorath's command grammar. Gareth sent me a message through Calder. Stop looking at you like that. He's not dead. I wasn't looking at myself. You were unconscious. The principal transfers. She paused. Lyra held the eastern flank until hour 16. Damien held the entrance. I held the pavilion. You held the Emperor until you didn't. I didn't hold him. I listened. That was the harder part. He looked at the notebook on the blanket edge. Valdorath's words in his handwriting. A dead emperor's last intelligence, preserved before memory, could soften the edges into something more comfortable and therefore less true. He said, the Convergence. Yes. You read what I wrote. I read what you wrote. He leaned back against the cot's frame. The core pulsed, painful, warm, necessary. Every 300 years. A dimensional entity, the exterior, in the ancient texts. It doesn't invade. It pushes through. The weakest points in the world's aura field. And the weakest points are the aggregate state of every aura-capable being alive. He said it flatly. Not exposition. Arithmetic. Not geography. Not fortification. The field's integrity is the sum of every person who carries aura, how they relate to each other, how their structures integrate or refuse integration. Valdorath built an empire that was politically whole and spiritually hollow. The pressure found the hollow places. Seraphine was quiet for a moment. Then, so the war we just finished damaged the field. Every incursion, every hoarded capacity, every border treated as a wound instead of a membrane. The wars didn't cause the convergence. They made the seams weaker. He looked at his hands. Golden fractures pulsing slower now. The core is reorganizing because something in me recognized what he said. Not fear. Recognition. The sovereign core exists for this. I don't know the full grammar yet. I know the category. Transcendence. Eventually. Before whatever comes in approximately, he stopped. Checked the arithmetic Valdorath had implied. 10 years. Give or take. The tense canvas moved with wind. Outside, the coalition perimeter held. Demon territory shocked themselves awake 300 years late. Maps dried. Autonomy clauses waited for ink. Seraphine said, "You woke up and immediately started planning." I woke up and immediately started writing. Planning comes after documentation. Same person. He almost smiled. Brief. Contained. Redirected before it could become apparent. She said, "Rest." Thess was serious about sedation. "I'll rest. I'll be here." Not performance. Not duty stated aloud. The simple fact of a woman who had chosen to be in the chair at the cot's side and had not left when leaving would have been permitted. Kael closed his eyes. The Corps' reorganization continued quiet, warm. The relationship between him and something that was also him becoming more present in a body that had fought a 300-year emperor and won, and was now paying for the victory in a currency that did not deplete with use. He breathed. The pain was manageable. The words were documented. The rest would arrive on its own schedule. He let it. The Corps' reorganization did not respect sleep schedules. Kael woke at hour 4 on July 12th to golden fractures pulsing along his ribs with the specific rhythm of a project that had decided the body was available for night work. He breathed through it. Counted. Filed. Continued. Thess had left a sedative dose on the stool with a note in handwriting that suggested she had written it while arguing with someone about triage priority. If you're awake and in pain, take it. If you're awake and planning, take it anyway. He did not take it. Planning was the only thing that made the pain a category he could manage instead of a sensation that managed him. By morning he was permitted to leave the medical tent. Thess's conditions were 3. Eat first, no aura expenditure beyond what the Corps' reorganization required. And if he felt the fractures spike, he returned immediately, or she would send Calder's supply teams to carry him back in a manner that would embarrass everyone involved. He ate. Seraphine was already at the command pavilion when he arrived, maps spread, charter copies reinked. Delegates who had almost died twice in one afternoon now conducting the ordinary business of a coalition that had killed an emperor and discovered it had inherited a continent's worth of unfinished grammar. She looked up. "You look worse than yesterday." "I feel worse than yesterday. The Corps' schedule disagrees with mine." "Sit before you fall over and make my morning political." He sat. Gareth's advisory post was visible from the pavilion's edge supply wagon, master map bolted to a board across 2 barrels, the old strategist in a chair that had been modified twice in 2 days to accommodate stairs he no longer climbed. Gareth did not come to the pavilion. He sent messages. That was his grammar now. Kael said, "I need to understand Valdorath's logic before I argue against it." Seraphine said, "You wrote his words. You've been awake 18 hours. I've been awake 18 hours and the Corps has been reorganizing for 48. The words are documented. The logic isn't." She studied him. The assessment of a woman who had learned to distinguish between Kael performing competence and Kael actually requiring something. She said, "The tomb's inner chamber. Kaelin's engineers cleared it for structural stability. Valdorath's inscriptions are intact. Thess says no aura expenditure beyond reorganization. That leaves reading. Reading is not expenditure. Reading in a transcendent adjacent chamber with inscriptions designed by a man who spent 3 centuries thinking about field integration might be." He met her eyes. She said, "1 hour. I come with you." Thess's condition, not mine. Accepted. The tomb's inner chamber had changed. Not physically, the black stone remained, the inscriptions pulsed faintly on the walls, the air held the particular stillness of places where time had been bent and was now learning to behave. But the chamber's meaning had shifted. 2 days ago it had been a battlefield. Now it was an archive. Valdorath's inscriptions covered the walls in layers, not decoration notation. Field mathematics rendered in stone. Integration diagrams. Pressure maps showing where the first convergence had torn through 300 years ago. Kael stood at the center and read. Seraphine stood at the chamber's edge with her rapier sheathed and her hands still, the posture of a woman who had fought in this room and was now permitting it to be something else. The inscriptions told a story Valdorath had never told aloud. His empire had been the closest the world had come to a unified aura field. Billions of people. Aligned structures. Political conformity imposed with 3 centuries of patience and the absolute certainty that unity was the answer to the exterior's pressure. The first convergence had happened anyway. Kael traced an inscription with his finger, not touching, close enough to read the fine work. The diagram showed field integration as Valdorath understood it, convergence toward a single harmonic, diversity reduced to manageable variance, borders dissolved into administrative districts, demon territories absorbed or excluded with equal efficiency. The diagram's margins held corrections in a different hand, Valdorath's, later, the handwriting of a man who had watched his answer fail. Resistance at integration points. Forced alignment produces counterharmonic. Counterharmonic accumulates at seams. Kael read it twice. Seraphine said, he built the closest thing to unity the world had seen. Yes. And the convergence found the hollow places anyway. Yes. He turned from the wall. Because unity imposed from outside is not unity grown from within. He forced conformity. Billions of people aligned because the alternative was death or assimilation. Their aura fields didn't integrate. They resisted. The resistance didn't look like rebellion. It looked like compliance. But compliance and integration are different structures. The resistance created the weakness. The resistance was the weakness. He said it quietly. Not triumph over a dead enemy. Arithmetic. Every person forced into alignment carried a counterharmonic. Billions of counterharmonics accumulating along the seams where forced structure met genuine structure. The exterior doesn't need a breach in a wall. It needs a seam. He built an empire of seams and called it whole. Seraphine was quiet for a long moment. The inscriptions pulsed faintly as if the chamber remembered. She said, he never understood. No. Kael looked at the diagram again, the empire rendered as a single harmonic, beautiful and wrong. He spent 300 years trying to undie his empire. He never understood that the empire's death wasn't the tragedy. The tragedy was the method. He loved the answer. He never questioned whether the answer was the question. They returned to the pavilion at hour 10. Gareth's message arrived through Calder before Kael had finished sitting. Read the margins. Not the center. Kael sent back, I read the margins. Gareth's reply, then you understand why he lost. Not why we won. Why he lost. The distinction mattered. Victory was an absence. Understanding was a debt. Kael looked at the coalition map kingdoms, demon territories, the frontiers that had been battlefields for 15 years and were now someone else's problem to rebuild. The aura field damage from wars and incursions was not visible on paper. It was visible in the aggregate, the same aggregate Valdorath had described, the sum of every aura-capable being's relationship to every other. The wars had made the seams weaker. Valdorath's method would have made them weaker differently, hollow instead of torn, compliant instead of fractured. Neither approach was sufficient. Kael said, to Seraphine, he was right about the problem. And wrong about the solution. Completely wrong. He leaned back in the chair. The core pulsed, warmer now, the reorganization settling into something that felt less like fracture and more like expansion. The field must be whole. He understood that. But whole doesn't mean uniform. Whole means integrated. And integration cannot be imposed. So, what can be done? He did not answer immediately. The pavilion's delegates argued about supply manifests. Lyra's channel reported Eastern Flank demobilization on schedule. Veth's channel waited for autonomy verification language that would hold on ground, not paper. Kael looked at the map. The question sat in the air like Valdorath's last word, not invasion, penetration. Not siege, pressure. The field tearing where integration failed. He said, I don't know yet. But I know what it isn't. Seraphine said, Valdorath's answer. Valdorath's answer. He paused. And everything we just spent 15 years doing if we don't learn the difference. Damien arrived at the pavilion's edge before the thought could settle. Bandaged hands. The exhaustion of a man who had held an entrance and was now discovering that entrances, once held, became someone else's logistics problem. He said, Thus cleared me for light duty. I came to see if you're functional or performing functional. Functional. Good. Damien looked at the map, then at Seraphine, then at Kael with the particular assessment of someone who had learned, in 2 years, that direct questions received more honest answers than indirect ones. The Emperor said unity. You're saying something else. I don't need the full grammar. I need to know if the coalition I held an entrance for is building toward the right thing. Kael said, we're building toward the opposite of what he built. Good enough for today. Damien paused. Lyra wants a briefing when you're vertical enough to survive her vocabulary. She held the eastern flank until hour 16. She considers that a debt you owe in information. I owe the debt. I know. Damien left. Evidence filed again. The world not entirely awful. People who had held positions asking whether the positions had been worth holding. That was a better question than celebration. Thess found Kael at hour 18 with a chart and the expression of a surgeon who had discovered her patient was conducting field research instead of resting. She said, tomb chamber. 1 hour. Seraphine's report. My conditions were no aura expenditure beyond reorganization. Reading isn't expenditure. Reading transcendent adjacent inscriptions while your core is actively expanding is a category I'm not willing to debate. She set the chart on the table. The reorganization is progressing. Better numbers than year 12. You're not dying. You're also not invincible. Sit down. He sat. She pressed along his ribs, professional, unhurried. The same refusal to dramatize she applied to emperors and barons. The fractures are settling into channels. Not damage. Architecture. She straightened. Valdorath spent 3 centuries building the wrong architecture. You're not required to repeat his mistakes on a shorter timeline. No. Good. She collected the chart. Eat. Sleep. Tomorrow Seraphine will want you functional for delegate arithmetic. The day after, someone will want something else. The coalition's appetite for your attention is not a wound that closes. It's a membrane. Learn to treat it like one. She left. Kael looked at the map. Outside, July 12th continued. The coalition held. The Emperor was gone. The architect's tragedy was written on tomb walls in inscriptions he had corrected too late to matter. Kael filed it. The filing was not neutral. Some weights changed the center of gravity. This one did. The answer arrived on July 13th while Kael was eating breakfast. He did not want in a pavilion. He could not leave without Seraphine noticing. Not revelation. Recognition. The sovereign core had been quiet through the tomb fight, present, warm, the relationship that was also him. It had cracked afterward. Reorganized. Become more present. And in the space between bites of hard bread and the delegate 3 tables over arguing about grain requisition, something settled. Not words. Structure. The core did not explain itself the way Valdorath's inscriptions explained, in diagrams and margins and 3 centuries of corrected wrongness. The core simply was, and what it was became slightly clearer the way a room became clearer when someone opened a window you had not known was closed. Kael set down the bread. Seraphine looked up from a charter page. You have the expression. What expression? The one you get when the core finishes a sentence you didn't know it was speaking. He said. The correct answer is the opposite of Valdorath's. She set down her pen. Continue. He did not continue in the pavilion. Too many delegates. Too many ears. The conversation belonged in a room with fewer witnesses, not secrecy, precision. The difference mattered. They walked to the medical tent at the perimeter's eastern edge. Thess was not present, morning rounds at the terminal discharge sector, where the arithmetic of survival had not improved merely because the Emperor was dead. The tent was empty. Kael sat on the cot he had occupied for 2 days. Seraphine sat in the chair. He said, Valdorath wanted to eliminate diversity. Reduce the field to a single harmonic. Force integration through subtraction, remove what refused to align, absorb what could be absorbed, exclude what could not. Yes, the correct answer isn't subtraction. It's connection. He looked at his hands. The golden fractures had faded to a faint warmth beneath the skin, visible only if you knew to look, pulsing in patterns that no longer felt like pain and had not yet settled into something he could name. Not connection that lies about difference. Connection that holds difference and strengthens the field because of it. Seraphine was quiet. He continued, the world's aura field is richer for its complexity. Human and demon. Kingdom and kingdom. Fire and water and earth and wind and light and the structures that don't fit clean categories. Valdorath treated complexity as noise. Noise to be reduced. The field doesn't want reduction. It wants resonance. Resonance. Elements in relationship. Structures that acknowledge each other without requiring conformity. He paused. The core pulsed once, warm, quiet, the relationship acknowledging that he was speaking its grammar without yet fully understanding the vocabulary. The goal isn't to simplify the field. It's to anchor it. Give it a center point that allows diverse elements to find coherence without losing their individual character. Seraphine said, the sovereign core. Yes. She studied his face. The assessment of a woman who had watched him become something the world had not seen in 300 years and was still learning what that meant. She said, not combat. No. Not dominance. No. He said it flatly. Valdorath used his near transcendence for command. For empire. For 3 centuries of imposed unity that produced counter-harmonics at every seam. The sovereign core isn't for that. It's for resonance. For holding the field's complexity in relationship instead of flattening it into compliance. An anchor. An anchor. He leaned back against the cot's frame. The exterior pushes through weakest seams. Valdorath tried to eliminate seams by eliminating difference. He created more seams. The correct approach is to strengthen the connections between different elements, make the field whole by making it more honestly complex, not less. Seraphine was quiet for a long moment. The tense canvas moved with wind off the Kareth Ridge. Outside, someone called for a medic. The world continuing. She said, can you do that? I don't know. Honest. The core is reorganizing toward something. I can feel the direction. I don't have the full grammar yet. Transcendence is the completion, the core awakening finished. Valdorath estimated 10 years until the next convergence. I have to finish before then. And if you don't? Then the field tears where integration failed. Same as last time. Same as every 300 years when the pressure accumulates and finds the hollow places. He looked at her. I intend to finish. I know you intend to finish. I asked what happens if you don't. He did not answer immediately. The question was fair. The question was the kind Seraphine asked when she wanted the arithmetic stated plainly, without the performance of confidence that wasted triage time. He said, then we manage the penetration the way every generation before us managed it. Badly. With casualties. With the field torn and slowly healing until the next cycle. He paused. I don't intend to manage it. I intend to prevent it. By anchoring. By anchoring. The core pulsed again, not approval. Presence. The relationship between him and something that was also him, becoming more present, more specific. More oriented toward a purpose that had nothing to do with the combat dominance Valdorath had pursued and everything to do with the connection Valdorath had failed to understand. Seraphine stood. She did not touch him. She said, then we build toward that. Not just you. The coalition. The field. Every connection that doesn't lie about difference. Yes, that includes demon territories, kingdom borders, the Order's remnants, the Academy's curriculum. Everything we spent 15 years fighting over. Yes, she said, harder than killing an emperor. Much harder. He almost smiled. Brief. Contained. Killing an emperor is an afternoon. Building a field that can hold complexity is years. We have 10. Approximately. He stood. The motion was steadier than yesterday. The core's reorganization progressing. Give or take. Valdoratha's estimate. He had 3 centuries to study the cycle. Then we don't waste the estimate. She moved toward the tent flap. The pavilion in 20 minutes. Kael wants language about the convergence for the founding kingdoms. They'll need to understand why peace treaty negotiations matter more than victory celebrations. They won't want to understand. No. She paused at the flap. They'll understand anyway. That's what we're for. She left. Kael stood in the empty tent. The core was warm. Not dramatic. Quiet. Something that had been waiting for a body patient enough to finish the conversation, and a purpose clear enough to orient the reorganization toward resonance instead of dominance. He filed the recognition. The filing changed the center of gravity again. He was becoming accustomed to the sensation. The pavilion at hour 14 held Kael, 2 Iron-marked delegates, a Silverlight observer who had survived the tomb by virtue of being elsewhere, and Veth's channel open on the map table's edge. Kael presented the convergence mechanism in the language of arithmetic, not prophecy. Pressure. Seams. Aggregate field integrity. 10 years, approximately. Kael listened with the expression of a king who had learned to receive bad news without performing catastrophe. The Iron-marked delegates wanted guarantees. Kael said, "There are no guarantees. There is preparation. The coalition exists because we understood that continental problems require continental solutions. The convergence is the largest continental problem. We prepare together or we fail separately." Veth's voice through the channel. "The demon territories will require autonomy verification before we discuss field integration. Ground, not paper." Seraphine said, "You'll have it within 48 hours. The channel closed. Kael said, 10 years. Approximately. Continental war just ended. The coalition is 6 months old. The aura field is damaged from 15 years of incursions." He looked at Kael. "You're asking us to build something we've never built in less time than we've been at war. I'm asking you to understand what we're building toward." Kael said it without heat. "The rest is Seraphine's department." Kael looked at Seraphine. She said, "The rest is my department." The king accepted that. Kael looked at the map, kingdoms, demon territories, frontiers, the aggregate field rendered as geography, because geography was what delegates could hold in their hands. The anchor was not on the map. The anchor was in his chest, reorganizing, becoming more present. Resonance. Not combat. Not dominance. Connection that did not lie about difference. He breathed. July 13th continued. The work had begun. 10 years was not a comfortable number. Kael wrote it on the map table's margin on July 14th, Convergence, year 25, with a question mark. Thess would have objected to and Gareth would have called honest. The arithmetic was Valdorath's, not his. 3 centuries of observation. Pressure accumulating along seams. Penetration when integration failed. Approximately 10 years from year 15. The coalition's delegates looked at the margin and performed the expressions people performed when arithmetic became personal. Kael said, "That's not enough time." "No. How much time would be enough?" Kael said, 300 years wasn't enough for Valdorath. 10 years isn't enough for us. We're not working with enough. We're working with what exists." The pavilion was hot. July heat finding the gap between collar and jaw before the body finished adjusting to the idea of sitting in a room with windows that did not open wide enough. Maps covered every surface. Charter copies. Autonomy clauses waiting for ink that would hold on ground, not paper. Seraphine stood at the map's northern edge with her hands still, the posture of a woman conducting arithmetic she had already completed and was now permitting others to catch up to. She said, "The aura field damage from 15 years of war doesn't heal in 10 years. Incursions at the demon border. Order suicide squads. Valdorath's domain effects on the tomb sector. The field is torn in places that won't close without deliberate work." How long for natural healing? 20 to 30 years. Conservative estimate. She looked at Kael. "We don't have 20 to 30 years. No. So we don't wait for natural healing. No." He leaned over the map. The Kareth perimeter. The frontiers that had been battlefields. The demon territories where Veth's peace faction held ground and war faction fragments wrote their own paper if verification didn't arrive on schedule. We accelerate. Deliberate field work. Connection building. The anchor isn't just me, it's the coalition's aggregate relationship. Every treaty that doesn't lie. Every border treated as membrane instead of wound. Every academy graduate who understands that aura types integrate through relationship, not conformity. An Iron-marked delegate said, "You're describing a continent-wide restructuring." Yes. In 10 years. Approximately. The delegate's expression suggested he had opinions about approximately. Kael did not address the opinions. He addressed the arithmetic. Transcendence completes the core awakening. I have to achieve it before the convergence. The core is reorganizing toward that completion. I don't control the timeline. I control the preparation. And if the core's timeline is longer than 10 years, Then we manage penetration instead of preventing it. He said it flatly. Not threat. Fact. I prefer prevention. The Core's reorganization suggests prevention is possible. I can't guarantee the schedule. Gareth's message arrived at hour 16. 10 years is Valdorath's estimate. First convergence was early. Plan for early. Kael sent back, noted. Gareth's reply, plan for 7. Hope for 10. Kael looked at the margin. Changed year 25 to year 22 to 25. The question mark remained. Seraphine said, Gareth. He's right. I know. He set down the pen. 7 to 10. Continental War just ended. Coalition 6 months old. Field damaged. I need transcendence before pressure finds the seams. The coalition needs stability before we can build the connections that strengthen the field. Everything we need to do takes longer than we have. Yes. Uncomfortable. Yes. She moved to the chair beside his. Not touching. Proximity. We have done harder things. Have we? We killed a 300-year emperor in an afternoon. This is harder than that. He looked at her. She said it without performance. Without the rhetoric of motivation. The flat assessment of a woman who had held a radiant cage at Diamond's edge of depletion and had chosen him in a medical tent while he was unconscious and was now sitting beside him while he calculated whether 7 years was sufficient to rebuild a continent's relationship with itself. He said, what makes it harder? Killing requires 1 afternoon. Building requires every day for 7 years without the field fracturing again before we finish. She paused. And you have to achieve transcendence in the middle of it. While coordinating. While the core reorganizes. While delegates want guarantees we can't provide. While you hold the political center. While I hold the political center. She looked at the map. We have done remarkable things. This is, in its way, harder. Remarkable things are usually acute. This is chronic. The afternoon brought Veth's channel and a question Kael had been expecting. The demon territories need to know the timeline. Not the full mechanism. The timeline. Seraphine said, 7 to 10 years. A pause. Veth calculating honesty. Peace faction will hold for timeline. War faction will use timeline as pressure. Autonomy verification on ground within 48 hours. After that, we discuss what field integration means for territories that have treated the human border as a wound for 300 years. Membrane, Kael said. Not wound. Membrane. The word arrived slightly wrong, translation's fault, demon mouth shaped for different sounds. We will discuss membrane. After verification. Channel closed. Lyra arrived at hour 18 with demobilization reports and the particular exhaustion of a woman who had held a flank until hour 16 and was now discovering that Victory's paperwork exceeded Victory's combat. She said, 10 years. 7 to 10. That's not a lot of years. No. Good. She dropped into a chair. Short timelines mean people don't get comfortable. Comfortable people write bad treaties. Seraphine said, Lyra's accidentally strategic. I'm accidentally right. Lyra looked at Kael. Course still doing rude things? Quieter rude things. Functional rude things. Yes. Good. She stood. I'll tell Damien. He'll want to know the timeline for reasons he'll call practical and mean personal. She left. Thess arrived at hour 19 with field healing estimates and the professional irritation of a woman who had spent 2 days listening to soldiers describe the convergence in terms of prophecy and preferred arithmetic. She spread a chart on the map table, scene locations, incursion damage, tomb sector distortion, demon border friction marked in Thess's precise hand. She said, natural healing timeline, 20 to 30 years. Conservative. The eastern frontier alone, Lyra's sector, has 3 major tiers from order incursions in year 14. They won't close without deliberate work. Kael said, deliberate work meaning? Connection building. Treaty language that holds. Borders treated as membrane. She looked at Seraphine. Your department. Mostly, Seraphine said. The rest is his. Thess tapped the chart's center, not geography, the aggregate. Sovereign core as anchor. Transcendence before pressure finds the seams. I don't have the grammar for what that looks like clinically. I have the arithmetic for what happens if it doesn't happen. Penetration, Kael said. Penetration. Field tiers. Casualties measured in kingdoms, not squads. Thus collected the chart. 7 to 10 years. Plan for 7. I'll be honest about what I can heal and what I can't. She left. The pavilion was quieter after that. Delegates departed with margins full of uncomfortable dates. The map held the arithmetic whether or not anyone wanted to read it. Evening settled over the Kareth perimeter the way evening settled over battlefields, learning they were permitted to stop, gray light, smoke direction changing. The smell of cook fires thus still forbade within 40 meters of medical tents, and that soldiers lit anyway because cold was also a casualty. Kael stood at the pavilion's edge. The tomb's outer ring was visible in the distance. Valdorath's inscriptions inside. The architect's tragedy written in stone. The correct answer forming in his chest, resonance, anchor, connection that did not lie about difference. 7 to 10 years. Transcendence before convergence. Coalition stability before field work. Field work before natural healing could close the seams the war had torn. The arithmetic was uncomfortable. He had worked with uncomfortable arithmetic before. He breathed. The core pulsed, warm, quiet, reorganizing toward something that had nothing to do with combat dominance and everything to do with holding a continent's complexity in relationship. Seraphine joined him at the edge. She said, "You've been standing here 12 minutes. Thinking. About? Whether 7 years is enough. And? It's what we have." He looked at the map table behind them, kingdoms, demon territories, margins with dates that made delegates uncomfortable. We start tomorrow. Building phase. Treaty. Autonomy. Order reform. Academy. Reconstruction. You hold the political center. I hold the military strategic coordination. We hold it together. Yes. He paused. We chose that. We chose that. Not performance. Not the half-conscious Mooring birth confession from year 13, filed and never repeated. Something else. Chosen. Stated. Decided. He filed it in the place where he kept things that changed the map. She said, tomorrow. Tomorrow. July 14th's last hour. The Emperor was dead. The Convergence was coming. 7 to 10 years to build what 300 years of imposed unity had failed to build. Kael breathed. The work would begin in the morning. That was sufficient for tonight. The building phase did not announce itself with ceremony. It announced itself with ink. July 15th through year 16th's first quarter arrived as a sequence of rooms, delegates, and documents that required more patience than any battlefield Kael had stood on. Treaties did not yield to spatial severance. Autonomy clauses did not fracture under radiance. The Silverlight Order's reformation did not collapse when you found the correct angle of approach. Seraphine held the political center. Kael held the military strategic coordination. They had killed an emperor in an afternoon. This was harder. The formal peace treaty took 11 weeks. Not because the terms were complex. The coalition had been negotiating terms since year 12, since the southern ceasefire, since the architecture Kael had built on a border field became an organism that could survive without its architect conscious. The terms were known. The signatures were the obstacle. Kingdoms that had spent 15 years at war did not sign peace because peace was correct. They signed because Seraphine Voss stood in rooms and made the cost of not signing larger than the cost of signing, and because Kaelin endorsed the treaty from a position of victory rather than exhaustion, and because Ironmark's Martial Emperor calculated that a signed peace with trade access to coalition supply lines exceeded an unsigned peace with continued frontier skirmishes. Kael attended 3 of the 11-week sessions. He did not speak unless asked. When asked, he spoke in arithmetic. Seraphine spoke in consequences. The treaty signed on October 3rd, year 15, in a hall Kaelin had rebuilt for the purpose, neutral ground, Kareth's outer ring, demon observers in the peace faction sector visible through windows that had been installed so visibility was not negotiable. Veth's representative signed the autonomy recognition appendix separately. Ground, not paper. The demon peace faction's territorial boundaries verified by engineers from 3 kingdoms and 1 demon survey team who had spent 6 weeks walking borders that had been aspirationally claimed for 3 centuries and were now, for the first time, measured. Kael watched the signatures. He did not feel victory. He felt the field shift, not dramatically, not in ways ordinary aura users would notice. A seam that had been treated as a wound for 300 years received, in the aggregate, a different relationship. Membrane instead of wound. The shift was small. The shift was necessary. Seraphine stood beside him after the last signature dried. She said, "One document. 11 weeks for one document. 7 to 9 years for the rest." Yes. The Silverlight Order's reformation took longer. Commander Bright had been preparing since year 12, since infiltration became undeniable, since the Order's suicide squads at the tomb proved that centralized command grammar could be turned against the continent. Bright was not a politician. She was a soldier who had learned that institutions required purging the way wounds required cleaning, and that cleaning hurt and was necessary anyway. Kael coordinated the military aspects. Which order units would be disbanded, which command structures would be dissolved, which personnel would be reassigned to coalition oversight or released with pensions that did not include access to order archives. Seraphine coordinated the political aspects, which kingdoms would accept reformed order units on their soil, which jurisdictions the new order would answer to, which charter language would prevent infiltration from re-establishing the grammar Valdorath had used for 3 centuries. Bright led the purge. She did not perform it gently. By December year 15th, the Order's suicide doctrine was formally abolished. Infiltration networks identified in the year 12 intelligence harvest were dismantled. The reformed order answered to a coalition council, not to any single kingdom's crown. Gareth sent a message, "Bright will hold. She understands the difference between loyalty and compliance." Kael sent back, "Yes." The Academy's curriculum reform began in year 16's first month. This was Seraphine's project with Kael as advisor on aura theory, the honest history of order infiltration, the field integration principles Valdorath had failed to understand, the convergence mechanism presented as arithmetic rather than prophecy. The Academy's faculty resisted. Faculty always resisted curriculum that implicated their institution's complicity. Seraphine did not perform the resistance gently. She stood in the Academy's Great Hall in Crest, the city that had been Seraphine's jurisdiction before the coalition, before the war, before everything, and presented the intelligence harvest's findings with the devastating precision she used in council. Names. Dates. Infiltration vectors. The Order's doctrine of forced alignment presented alongside Valdoratha's inscriptions, the same error in different uniforms. Kael presented the alternative. Resonance. Connection. Field integration through relationship rather than conformity. The Sovereign Core's purpose stated plainly, anchor, not weapon. The Convergence's timeline stated plainly, 7 to 10 years, preparation, not panic. The faculty voted to reform the curriculum. Not unanimously. Sufficiently. Economic reconstruction of the war-damaged frontiers was Kael's longest project. Not because economics was his expertise, it wasn't. Because frontiers were where the field seams were weakest, where 15 years of incursions had torn the aggregate integrity, where reconstruction required both physical infrastructure and the relationship work that turned borders from wounds into membranes. He coordinated supply lines. He coordinated demilitarization schedules. He coordinated the engineer teams, Kaelin's people, Ironmark's people, Demon Peace faction labor exchanges that Veth negotiated with the particular patience of someone who had spent 3 centuries watching human kingdoms treat demon territories as problems instead of neighbors. Seraphine coordinated the trade agreements that made reconstruction economically viable. Grain from the southern kingdoms. Timber from Ironmark's northern forests. Demon territory minerals on terms that did not replicate the extraction grammar that had fueled 300 years of war. By year 16's third month, the eastern frontier, Lyra's sector, Damien's entrance, the ground that had held until hour 16, showed the first signs of something other than battlefield. Roads. Relay stations. Medical posts that Thessa's people staffed without the terminal discharge arithmetic that had defined the war years. Kael visited once. Lyra walked him through the reconstruction sites with the particular pride of a woman who had held a flank and was now watching the flank become a road. She said, "Still 10 years. 7 to 10. We're 3 months in." "Yes. Good pace." He looked at the road, new stone, new relationship between kingdom supply and frontier need, new seam in the aggregate field that was being strengthened instead of torn. He said, "Insufficient data." Lyra laughed. "Honest. Always." Gareth's advisory post moved twice in year 16, from the supply wagon to a permanent structure at the Coalition's Kareth headquarters, from the headquarters to a chair near the map room window where he could see the perimeter without climbing stairs. He did not attend meetings. He read reports. He sent messages. At hour 19 on a March evening, his message arrived. "The building is slower than the fighting." "You knew that?" Kael sent back, "Yes." Gareth's reply, "Keep building." Seraphine found Kael in the map room at hour 21. Year 16's third month. Treaty signed. Autonomy verified. Order reformed. Academy curriculum in its first semester of honest history. Frontier reconstruction showing measurable progress. She said, "We have done more remarkable things." "Yes." "This is harder." "Yes." He looked at the map, margins with dates, frontiers with reconstruction markers, demon territories with membrane notation instead of wound notation, chronic instead of acute. Every day for 7 years. The core is still reorganizing. Transcendence is still ahead. The convergence is still coming. And we keep building. He set down the pen. Treaty was one document. Autonomy was one verification. Order reform was one purge. Academy was one vote. Reconstruction is 3 frontiers and 15 years of damage. We are 3 months in. Good pace. Insufficient data. He almost smiled. Brief. Contained. Same answer I gave Lyra. I know. She moved to the window. The Kareth perimeter at night, lamplight, cook fires at legal distance, the tomb's outer ring dark against the ridge. We chose this. We chose this. Together. Together. Not the words from year 13. Not spoken half-conscious and filed and never repeated. Something chosen. Stated. The relationship that did not lie about difference, partnership, coordination, the particular closeness of 2 people building something that would outlast them if they built it correctly. Kael joined her at the window. The core was warm. Quiet. Reorganizing toward anchor. Toward resonance. Toward connection that did not lie about difference. 7 to 10 years. 3 months complete. The building phase had begun. It would continue tomorrow. That was sufficient for tonight. The proposal went to paper in Valdorath on the first Tuesday of March year 16, because Tuesdays were when the Reform Council's Continental Liaison Committee met without pretending the meeting was informal, and because Kael had learned that institutions born on administrative calendars survived longer than institutions born on battlefields. He did not present it in the hall. He presented it in the Intelligence Center's East Conference Room, the same room that had hosted Coalition military coordination maps 18 months earlier, now hosting a different kind of architecture. The table was cleared of troop disposition pins. In their place, charter language drafts, kingdom sovereignty clauses copied from 6 separate legal traditions, and a single diagram Kael had drawn on vellum with the careful ugliness of a man who understood systems better than he understood calligraphy. The diagram showed concentric circles. The outer ring, sovereign kingdoms, demon peace faction territories, autonomous guild corridors, frontier compacts. Each retained internal authority. Each retained armies, tax law, succession, religious practice within established treaty bounds. The inner ring, matters that could not be decided by any single ring member without damaging the whole. Continental aura field health. Convergence preparation. Interkingdom disputes where the damage of unresolved conflict would propagate beyond the disputant's borders. Between the rings, a court. Not a throne. Not a parliament. A judicial body, a place where the interests of the whole could be weighed against the interests of the parts without anyone's flag being lowered. Kael called it the Sovereign's Court. He did not call himself sovereign. He called it a name because names were how frightened people navigated new rooms, and every kingdom in Ardenvast was frightened in year 16 in the particular way of survivors who had just learned the word exterior and understood it was not metaphor. Seraphine read the draft standing because she read important documents better on her feet and because sitting would have suggested she was receiving rather than evaluating. She turned the vellum diagram once. She said, "You want them to submit sovereignty?" He said, "No." She said, "Read line 14 again." He read it aloud. Founding kingdoms retain full internal sovereignty. The court holds advisory and adjudicative authority only on matters enumerated in Section 2, where harm to continental field integrity or convergence preparedness exceeds the legitimate scope of unilateral kingdom action. She said, "Harn will here submit." He said, "Harn hears invasion in any sentence longer than 4 words." She said, "Then we write the sentence shorter." They wrote the sentence shorter. Partnership visible in function. Not labeled. Sufficient. King Kael endorsed the proposal before lunch. Not performed endorsement, the kind where a king speaks at length and the endorsement arrives buried in paragraph 9. Kael read the 2-page summary, asked 3 questions about enforcement mechanism and appellate structure, received answers he clearly already knew, and said, "Valdorath signs founding charter language today, if you'll accept my legal team's red pen on Clause 19. Clause 19 concerned emergency powers during convergence preparation windows." Kael said, "Acceptable." Kael signed. The Reform Council clerk's hand shook slightly, not from fear, from the physical reality of watching a king put ink on something that had not existed yesterday. Other kingdoms took longer. That was the chapter's real work, and it was not his. March through August year 16, 6 months, Seraphine conducted negotiation the way she conducted every negotiation Kael had watched her conduct since the barony's Eastern crisis, individually first, collectively second, never confusing the order. Ironmark's Harn required 3 separate meetings and a written guarantee that Northern Flank Military Command would not be subordinated to Southern Kingdom scheduling preferences. She gave him the guarantee with a footnote Harn pretended not to need and absolutely needed. Solhaven's Consul Valdain required trade corridor language that did not treat merchant convoy or a calibration as optional municipal decoration. She rewrote Section 2's field health enumeration to include maritime seams explicitly. Thornwald's Lady Stormwind required weather corps scheduling autonomy and the right to insult committees in formal record without it being ruled contempt. Seraphine ruled it permissible provided the insults were accurate. Haritha's Sultan Yerik signed in 11 minutes and sent a second copy by courier asking why anyone was still talking. The Demon Peace faction required autonomy verification language read aloud in full before any signature. Veth's envoy sat through 4 hours of human legal parsing with the stillness of someone who had learned that human institutions were a form of weather you endured until the road cleared. Kael attended 6 of the 41 formal sessions. He attended when aura field mechanics required translation from Mar archive terminology into language a trade lawyer could carry home without fainting. He did not attend when the obstacle was pride. Pride was Seraphine's terrain. June 3, year 16, Ironmark's final objection landed. The court's name. Sovereign implied a throne above thrones. Kael changed nothing about the institution and added a preamble footnote defining sovereign in the judicial sense, sovereignty of the whole field, not sovereignty of a person. Harn read the footnote twice. Harn said, "Still don't like the name." Seraphine said, "The name stays. The footnote stays. Your signature stays, or your northern seems calibrate alone for the next decade." Silence in the Valdorath treaty room. Harn signed. Not warmth. Fact. August 22, year 16, consensus achieved. Not trust. Kael had stopped expecting trust at the continental level and had replaced it with something more durable, mutually verified survival arithmetic. Delegates from 9 founding polities, 6 human kingdoms and allied compacts, 3 demon peace faction domains represented through Veth's channel, ratified the Sovereign's Court founding charter in the Merchant House Great Hall where the coalition had assembled 15 months earlier. Snow did not fall in August. The hall was hot. Delegates sweated through formal coats because ceremony required coats and survival required attendance. Seraphine did not declare victory. She declared the court seated pending Chancellor appointment and judicial roster confirmation. Kael stood at the back wall near the map rail, empty now, maps moved to the court's provisional archive wing, and watched kingdoms agree to be judged by something they did not control. His core was quiet, not dormant. Listening. The relationship between him and something that was also him had been listening more often since the tomb, since Valdorath's last words. Since the cracks became reorganization became the long building phase where every treaty and curriculum reform and relay station calibration was another stitch in a field that had been torn open by 300 years of someone else's wrong answer. This was another stitch. Gareth came to the hall's side entrance on August 22nd, hour 18, when delegates were drinking watered wine and pretending relaxation. Stairs still difficult. Chair carried to the rail. He looked at the signed charter copy on the display table. He said, "Court." Kael said, "Yes." Gareth said, "Not army." Kael said, "No." Gareth said, "Good." 3 words. Useful filed. Gareth left before ceremony became speech. Night August 22nd, Kael and Seraphine in the intelligence center with charter copies stacked between them and the window open to late summer air that smelled of river mud and copied ink. She said, 6 months. He said, "Yes." She said, "Chancellor vote next week." He said, "You'll win." She said, "That's not the concern." He said, "I know." She did not ask what he knew. He did not explain. Some architecture was understood by the people who built it without being spoken, the way load-bearing walls were understood by the builders who slept under them. She reorganized a binder tab. He updated the master ledger. He wrote August 22nd close, Sovereign's Court founded. Advisory and adjudicative authority on field health, convergence preparation, inter-kingdom disputes. Kingdom sovereignty retained. Kaelin immediate endorsement. 6 months negotiation. Seraphine primary. Consensus 9 polities. Chancellor appointment pending. He did not write court as victory. Court as instrument. Instruments required hands. Hands available. Outside, Valdorath lamps burned along the Reform Council quarter, blue-white, new calibration, field stable. The world was not saved. The world was being taught a new grammar for staying alive together. That was enough for August 22nd, year 16. Not enough for long. Building continued. Same hands. Less red on the maps. More blue in the seams. Amber proceeding towards something he would not name until it named itself. Enough for tonight. The Chancellor vote convened in Valdorath on September 3rd, year 16, 9 days after the charter ratification. Because Seraphine had insisted that appointment precede judicial roster politics and because delaying the vote would have allowed every kingdom to discover a new objection they had not thought to bring to the 6-month negotiation. The Merchant House Great Hall again. Founding delegates seated in the same positions they had occupied in August, which was either continuity or habit. Kael could not always tell the difference in diplomatic rooms and had stopped caring when the difference did not change outcomes. Seraphine stood at the center lectern without notes. She did not campaign. She presented the Chancellor's function as the Charter defined it, mediation between kingdom interests on enumerated continental matters, enforcement of court findings through treaty-bound compliance mechanisms, annual public reporting on aura field health indices, and convergence preparation milestones. Then she sat down. The vote was called. Valdorath, yes. Ironmark. Harn stood, looked at the charter footnote on Sovereign, looked at Seraphine, said nothing for 4 seconds that felt longer than 4 seconds, and said, yes. Solhaven, yes. Thornwald, yes, with Lady Stormwind's written insult about committees entered into record as permitted. Harith, yes. Frontier Compact Delegation, yes. Demon Peace Faction through Veth's Envoy, yes. Autonomy Verification Clause cited aloud first, ritual now, not obstruction. Silverlight Reformed Delegation through Commander Bright, yes. Unanimous. Seraphine Voss became the first Chancellor of the Sovereign's Court without changing her expression, which was the most impressive thing Kael had seen her do in a month that had included persuading a martial emperor to sign something he did not like. Kael's role was to find the following morning in the court's provisional offices, 3 rooms annexed from the Reform Council's legal wing, windows facing the river, desks still smelling of previous occupants' wax. He wrote his own definition. He had been asked formally by Kaelin's legal advisor, with Seraphine present and not commenting, to describe what he would be within the court's structure. He could have taken a title. Continental military coordination had already proven he could hold authority without asking for it. Saint Aura and Sovereigns I made him credible in rooms where credibility was measured in field range and command latency. Several delegates had assumed he would become something like Sovereign Advisor or Field Marshal of the Court, or another phrase designed to sound important and mean ambiguous. He wrote one line on cream stationery with the court's provisional seal not yet affixed. Advisor to the Chancellor on Aura-related matters. No command authority. No vote in judicial proceedings. No rank above kingdom military structures. Access to field health data, Convergence preparation archives, and Chancellor's strategic calendar. Obligation to translate MAR terminology into language institutions could act on without misunderstanding the stakes. Seraphine read it standing by the window, back to the river light. She said, "You gave yourself no authority at all." He said, "I have all the authority I need." She said, "Which is?" He said, "Yours." Pause. The river moved below, brown-green, late summer, ordinary. Her hands stilled the way they stilled when she decided something, expression settling in her eyes approximately 2 seconds before the rest of her face followed. She said, "I'm going to marry you." He said, "That's the least romantic proposal in the history of the world." She said, "I'm not proposing. I'm informing you of a decision." He said, "I made the same decision approximately 2 years ago." She said, "Then we agree." He said, "We usually do, eventually." The pause after agreement lasted less than a minute. Then the Chancellor's calendar reclaimed them. Kael wanted briefing on judicial roster candidates by hour 14. Harn wanted written confirmation that Ironmark's Northern Calibration teams would not be reassigned through court channels without Ironmark's consent. Veth's envoy wanted demon language copies of field health enumeration before the autumn seam reports. Kael wrote roster assessments. Seraphine signed Chancellor's orders. Partnership visible in function. Not labeled. Sufficient. Commander Bright came at hour 11 with Silverlight's formal acknowledgement of the court's authority over Order Reformation compliance, a document that would have been unthinkable 3 years earlier and arrived now as paperwork, which was how healthy institutions buried their revolutions. Bright read Kael's one-line role definition and said, "You put yourself on her staff." Kael said, "Yes." Bright said, "Honest." Kael said, "Useful." Bright left with the expression of a man who had spent 30 years inside an infiltrated order and now worked for something he could describe to recruits without lying. Guildmaster Torin sent congratulations through Solhaven's trade relay, not on the marriage, which was not yet announced, but on the court. Torin's handwriting had not improved. His arithmetic had. He included a margin note: "If the court taxes corridor calibration, I will complain publicly and comply privately." Kael filed Torin under predictable and reliable, which was the highest compliment he gave merchants. Lyra arrived September 4th from Thornwald with Weather Corps reports and the particular energy of someone who treated continental politics as a storm system you tracked because ignoring it got people killed. She read the Chancellor appointment record in the hall corridor. She said, "She's going to run the continent." Kael said, "She's going to run the court." Lyra said, "Same sentence with different punctuation." He did not argue. Damien came September 4th hour 16 with Academy curriculum reform binders, honest history modules, order infiltration case studies redacted for student-age tears, field seam basics taught before propaganda could fill the gap. He said, "Bright wants your review on Chapter 7. Kael said, "Tomorrow." Damien said, "Also, congratulations." Kael said, "On what?" Damien said, "You know on what." Kael looked at him. Damien said, "She told Thess." Thess told the medical wing. The medical wing told everyone who pretends they don't listen. Kael said, "Yes." Damien said, "Good." Evidence filed again. September 5th year 16, Kael rode the Eastern Relay to the Frontier Barony for 2 days because Aldrich had requested a son's visit without using the word request. The letter said Tuesday's supper if the court permits, which was Aldrich's grammar for "I need to see you." Aldrich met him at the courtyard gate. Older. Same eyes. The barony had healed from war damage in the way Frontier Holdings healed, visibly, incompletely, with new timber brighter than old stone. Supper was quiet. Aldrich asked about the court. Kael explained judicial, not government. Aldrich said, so you're not a king. Kael said, no. Aldrich said, good. Kings eat badly. They laughed, brief, real. Aldrich said, later, at the fire, the Chancellor. Kael said, yes. Aldrich said, you'll marry her. Not question. Observation. Kael did not redirect. Redirect would have been cowardice dressed as strategy. He said, yes. Aldrich nodded. Said nothing more. Love without conditions did not require speeches. Night September 6th, Kael in the barony's old study updating the master ledger by lamplight. He wrote September 3rd, Seraphine Voss unanimous Chancellor, Harn yes. Kael role, advisor to Chancellor, Aura matters, self-written, no formal court title. He wrote September 5th, Aldrich informed. Yes. He did not write the proposal dialogue. Some intelligence belonged only in the place where he kept things that changed the map without changing the record. Outside, Frontier Dawn Cold found the gap between collar and jaw. He rode back to Valdorath September 7th. Wedding planning would become diplomacy. Diplomacy was Seraphine's terrain. He would show up on time. That was his contribution. Year 17 passed in the texture of institutions maturing, court hearings, SEAM reports, academy inspections. Wedding date moved twice because Harn's northern delegation could not travel during Ironmark's winter mobilization review, and Yerrick insisted Harith would not attend any ceremony scheduled during sandstorm season. Seraphine handled each delay without performing disappointment. Kael handled each delay by continuing Convergence preparation matrices. They ate supper together 4 nights a week when calendars permitted. They did not discuss romance. They discussed Clause 19. Romance lived in the clauses they rewrote for each other without announcement. Enough for September year 16 through year 17. Not enough for long. Building continued. Week of September 8th year 16, the court's first docket arrived before the judicial roster was fully confirmed, a frontier compact grazing dispute that would normally have festered into blood feud by winter. Seraphine heard it in provisional chambers with Kael at the side table translating field seam implications of overgrazing near a calibration relay. The disputants left with a binding recommendation and the unsettled expression of people who had expected violence and received paperwork. Kael noted it in the ledger. First court matter. Whole versus parts visible. No army required. That was the institution's promise made flesh. Not dramatic. Useful. The wedding was scheduled for April 14th year 18, because April was when overland delegates could travel without winter road closure arithmetic, and because Seraphine had insisted on a date that did not coincide with court quarterly field reports. Convergence Preparation Committee hearings, or Thornwald's lightning course spring calibration window. 2 years between decision and ceremony. Not hesitation. Workload. The Sovereign's Court consumed year 17 the way institutions consume time when they were real, judicial roster confirmations. First Interkingdom dispute brought before the bench. A maritime seam disagreement between Solhaven and Harith that would have become a shooting incident in year 14. Demon autonomy verification audits. Academy inspection tours. Frontier Reconstruction Fund allocations. Kael coordinated military strategic aspects of Convergence preparation. Seraphine coordinated everything else. They married in the interval between binders. Valdorath Cathedral Square, morning April 14th year 18. Not the Grand Cathedral, the Reform Council's Eastern Chapel, expanded for the occasion, stone warmed by weak spring sun that had not yet decided whether winter was finished. 5 monarchs attended. Kaelin stood front left, host king, not performer. Harn stood rear right with Ironmark delegation, formal coat, expression suggesting he was enduring ceremony the way he endured useful weather. Yerrick's representative from Harith wore southern silk. Lady Stormwind sent her daughter with a lightning core escort and a written insult about seating charts. Solhaven's consul proxy stood near Torrens Guild delegation because trade and law shared a wall in Solhaven's imagination. 3 demon representatives attended, Veth among them, human language speech flawless, autonomy verification copy held in left hand as habit rather than threat. Commander Bright in Silverlight formal gray reformed, honest, no order shadow in the stitching. Guildmaster Torin near the trade delegation with ledger-ready eyes. Lyra in Thornwald blue, hair braided for once, standing beside Damien, who held Academy reform documents in an inner pocket because Damien did not trust days without useful paper. Baron Aldrich Ashford in frontier wool, cleaned, hands visible, crying before the ceremony started and not apologizing for it. The ceremony was brief. No royal expansion metaphors. No unity sermons. The officiant was Valdorath Reform Council's senior legal scholar, a woman who had prosecuted order infiltration cases and spoke in sentences short enough for Harn to tolerate. Vows direct. Kael Ashford and Seraphine Boss. Partnership stated in law now, not only in crisis catches and half-inch balcony proximity and ledger entries filed without commentary. Kael spoke his vow in the same voice he used for accurate intelligence, level, audible, without performance. Seraphine spoke hers without notes. She did not cry. He did not smile on command. Both meant it. The only moment that broke controlled precision, after the vow exchange, Kael took her hand and held it 1 second longer than the rite required. She let him. Her fingers did not tighten. Did not pull away. 1 second. Filed in the place where he kept things that changed the map without changing the record. Reception in the merchant house courtyard, spring air, banners muted, food from 6 kingdoms because diplomacy required calories. Aldrich found Seraphine near the wine table before speeches began. He cried openly and without embarrassment, frontier honesty, love without political instinct for indirection. He said, "I was always hoping he'd find someone who could keep up with him." She said, "He can barely keep up with me." Aldrich said, "I know. That's why it works." Kael stood 6 feet away pretending to review a field health summary. He heard every word. He did not join. Joining would have been performance. Aldrich caught his eye once. Nodded. Kael nodded back. Enough. Veth raised a cup from the demon delegation table, not human toast ritual, adapted gesture, peace faction grammar. He said to Kael, quietly, "Lord Keth sends regards. The resonance hypothesis survives peer review." Kael said, "Tell him the anchor is not finished." Veth said, "He knows. He is patient in the way scholars are patient when they have waited 300 years for data." Pause. Veth said, "She is formidable." Kael said, "Yes." Veth said, "You are adequate." Kael said, "High praise." Veth's mouth moved, not quite smile, demon equivalent of acknowledgement. Useful filed. Lyra intercepted him near the courtyard rail. She said, "You held her hand too long." He said, "Yes." She said, "Good." She left for Damien, who was explaining academy curriculum to a Harith scholar with earnest kindness the world had tried to exploit and had not yet succeeded in extinguishing. Kaelin spoke briefly, accountable, no expansion rhetoric. Seraphine spoke shorter, court calendar, convergence preparation milestones, gratitude without softness. Harn did not speak. Harn stayed 40 minutes. Harn staying was speech. Gareth attended from a chair placed near the courtyard's north wall, stairs foregone, master map not present because maps were not required to witness weddings. He looked at Kael in formal coat. He said, "Less poetry." Kael said, "Yes." Gareth said, "Good." He left before cake. Loyalty shown by staying. Time shown by leaving before ceremony became noise. Night April 14th year 18, Kael and Seraphine in the court's residential wing, not Valdorath's palace, not Barony Manor. Rooms chosen for proximity to archive and Chancellor's office and the particular practicality of 2 people who would be working at hour 6, regardless of symbolism. She removed the formal coat pin. He loosened collar. Neither performed romance. Warmth appeared in what they did. She made tea. He dried a cup she had already dried. Half-inch proximity tolerance reduced to 0. Register soft. Precision intact. She said, "Year 19, the final barrier." He said, "Yes." She said, "You'll go to the tomb." He said, "Yes." She said, "I'll be at the court." He said, "Yes." She said, "After." He said, "Reports." She said, "Yes." Pause. She said, "Also this." She gestured, not at the room, at the 2 of them, the marriage, the absurd fact of frontier baron's son and duke's daughter who would have killed him once and chose not to, building a court and a field and a future. He said, yes. One word. Enough. He updated the master ledger before sleep. April 14th, year 18, married Seraphine Voss. Political and personal. 5 monarchs. Demon reps Veth, Bright, Tauren, Lyra, Damien, Aldrich. Ceremony brief. Vow hold 1 second, filed. He did not write adequate. He did not write love. Some intelligence belonged only in the place where he kept things that changed the map without changing the record. Outside, spring rain began, soft, field welcome, calibration friendly. The world was not saved. The world had witnessed 2 people choose each other in public so the private choice could keep working. That was enough for April 14th, year 18. Not enough for long. Building continued. Same hands. Ring on her left hand. Ring on his. Wait, ordinary. Ordinary trusted. Harn departed the reception without congratulating the couple. He left a signed Ironmark seam cooperation addendum on the gift table instead, ink dry, seal intact. The Martial Emperor's grammar, for I acknowledge this, when acknowledgement could not be spoken without discomfort. Seraphine filed it before speeches ended. Kael saw her file it. He understood the marriage had 2 registers, the courtyard where Aldrich cried, and the table where treaties landed beside wine glasses. Both were real. Both required showing up. Year 18 spring continued after the wedding. The way spring continued after battles, roads open, relays busy, field teams reporting improved stability indices in corridors that had been read on the master map for a decade. The court's chancellor and her advisor returned to work April 15th, hour 8. No honeymoon. Delay would have been performance. The marriage was not a pause. It was another structure load-bearing enough to work while they built the rest. Commander Bright sent a wedding gift of reformed Silverlight chapel candles, unscented, practical, note attached, for rooms that need honest light. Tauren sent corridor calibration tools in a crate marked complaint enclosed. Lyra sent a storm charm that would never work and would always make her laugh when she visited. Damien sent copied Academy history modules with a dedication page left blank because Damien understood some dedications required handwriting, not printing. Kael filed each gift under evidence that the world they defended contained people worth the resonance holding. April 16th, year 18, they returned to court. The work was waiting. The work was always waiting. That was not tragedy. That was continuity. Winter year 19 found the Emperor's tomb quieter than it had been during war. Though quiet in that place was relative, wind moved through converted archive corridors with a sound like someone turning pages in a library built inside a wound. The coalition had secured the outer ring in year 15. By year 18, the tomb had become what Kael had argued it should become: archive, study site, resonance calibration reference chamber. Demon Peace faction scholars worked the lower galleries under Veth's autonomy protocols. Mar texts from Valdorath and pre-fragmentation copies from the sealed royal chamber lived in climate-controlled cases, thus had designed with professional irritation at being asked to treat a tomb like a hospital. Kael came alone in January year 19. Not because Seraphine did not know. Because the final barrier required a room without audience. He was 23. The number still felt like an error in someone else's ledger. Too young for saint. Too young for Chancellor's husband. Too young for anchor. Old enough for every scar and every all-night map session and every decision that had turned a frontier barony into a continental court without turning him into a king. He had wanted many things across those years. Survival first, the animal want, the rebirth want, the do not die again without choosing want. Safety for his family, Aldrich in the barony, Brenna in the eastern quarter, the people who had not asked to live adjacent to his strategy. The right king on the throne, Kaelin, who could share stage without shrinking. The right structures, Reform Council, Coalition Charter, Sovereign's Court, Silverlight Reformed, Academy Honest, Demon Autonomy Verified. He had wanted Seraphine safe and known and valued, not hidden behind crust politics, not reduced to weapon, not lost to a war the world had been grooming before he arrived. He had wanted the world his father deserved to live in, frontier dawn cold, ordinary supper, crying at weddings without embarrassment. He had wanted the world Valdorath's last words suggested was possible, not unified by force, not simplified by reset, but coherent enough that the exterior would find no seam to push through when the convergence came. These wants were not separate. They had never been separate. They were the same want wearing different coats. A world worth protecting. Not perfect. Not the Empire. This world damaged, diverse, complicated, fractured people trying. The Sovereign Core had been reorganizing since the Tomb Battle in year 15. Saint had been battle conviction, the will manifestation mid-clash, sovereigns covering square miles, 250,000 forces as single nervous system. That conviction was real. It had saved them. Transcendence was not that. Transcendence was quieter and harder. The text said so. Mar said so. Valdorath's last word said so without saying it. Connection, not subtraction. Anchor, not empire. Resonance, not dominance. The core did not ask for effort. The core asked for understanding. Why it existed. What it was asking of the person who carried it. Whether he would choose to be that thing not only because it was necessary, though it was, but because he genuinely wanted to be. Kael sat in the central chamber where Valdorath had fallen. Stone cold through wool trousers. Lamplight on converted study desk, maps removed, resonance diagrams in their place. He breathed. He did not force. He noticed. Outside the tomb, January wind. Inside, his heartbeat. Deeper, the core's presence, warmth, not heat, attention, not demand. The relationship between him and something that was also him, becoming more present the way a room became more present when you stopped performing occupancy and actually lived in it. He thought about year 8 barony walls. Year 12 capital coup. Year 15, battlefield saint breakthrough. Year 16 court founding. Year 18 wedding vow, 1 second longer. He thought about Seraphine's hands stilling when she decided. Aldrich crying. Gareth saying good. Lyra saying same sentence with different punctuation. Damien holding an entrance because he had decided it was his. Beth's patience. Bright's honest gray. Torrens complaining compliance. Kaelin's deference without shrinking. Harn's useful discomfort. Not a catalog of allies. A catalog of a world. The barrier was not a wall he had to break. It was a question he had to answer without performing the answer. Do you want this? Not will you do this? Do you want this? He sat with the question through January 9th afternoon into evening. Lamp oil low. Vess's medical check scheduled for morning. She would measure field flicker and pretend not to be fascinated. He did not rush. Rushing was how people mistook conviction for understanding. Night January 9th year 19, hour 22. Cold in the chamber, the specific cold of underground stone that held winter in its memory. His hands found the desk edge. Breath shortened before his mind caught up, not fear, recognition. The want clarified. Not abstract. Not duty dressed as destiny. He wanted the world worth protecting because he lived in it now, because he had built in it, loved in it, buried friends' names in ledgers and learned demon autonomy clauses, and watched a martial emperor vote yes. Because the diversity was the strength Valdorath had amputated in his imagination. Because anchor was not thrown. Because Seraphine would hold the court while he held the field center, and neither role required the other to shrink. Because his father deserved ordinary Tuesdays. Because he deserved to choose. He chose. Quietly. Without announcement. The core did not flare. It awakened toward the final step, not completion yet, direction yes. The way dawn did not arrive as a shout, but as a frequency change in the air before color. Warmth spread from sternum outward. Not combat zone. Not domain. Resonance approaching coherence. Kael exhaled. Sat still. Let it begin. Morning January 10th, Vess measured field flicker at the chamber door. She said, "You're different." He said, "Yes." She said, "Not saint different." He said, "No." She said, "When?" He said, "Soon." She set down instruments. She said, "Feed yourself anyway." He said, "Yes." She left. Professional acknowledgement of a threshold she did not have vocabulary for and had learned not to fake vocabulary around. He wrote in the tomb ledger, not master ledger, local archive copy. January 9th to 10th year 19, final barrier approached. Will not battle conviction, understanding. Once integrated, survival, family, structures, Seraphine, father's world, Valdorath's corrected answer. Same want. World worth protecting. Chose anchor because wanted, not only necessary. Core toward final step. He did not write Transcendence. Not yet. Outside, Kareth perimeter snow-weak sun. Inside, resonance listening. The world was not saved. The world was being held by a choice. That was enough for January 10th year 19. Not enough for long. The final step remained. Same hands. Less forcing. More wanting. Enough for now. January 8th year 19, he walked the tomb's lower galleries before sitting in the central chamber, demon scholars nodding without interrupting, archive cases labeled in 3 languages. The building learning to be a library, the way bodies learn to heal around old wounds. He read 1 paragraph from Valdorath's captured notes, not for information, for contrast. Eliminate plurality. Rebuild lattice from single center. Wrong center. Wrong method. Right fear. The exterior was real. The convergence was real. The answer was not amputation. He closed the case. Returned to the chamber. Saturday. Waited without performing waiting. The core had been patient for 300 years between wielders. It could be patient for 1 more night. He could not. That was the human part, not impatience for power, impatience for the people he loved to stop living in a field that still had seams wide enough for something exterior to find. Seraphine's calendar for year 19 included 43 court sessions before summer. Aldrich's letter mentioned Eastern Quarter timber prices. Gareth's relay said stairs worse, eyes fine, map reading acceptable. Lyra's weather report insulted a committee in footnote form. The world kept being specific. He wanted the specific world. That was the answer the core had been waiting for, not abstraction, specificity. Not dominion, belonging. January 9th hour 21, belonging became choice. Choice became resonance approaching completion. He let it. February 3rd year 19, the Transcendence was not a battle. There was no enemy to defeat in the chamber, only stone, lamp, diagrams, and the core completing a relationship that had been building since the first time Kael read on the Sovereign's lattice and its anchoring function without vocabulary for what he recognized. He had returned to the tomb alone again. Seraphine had the quarterly convergence preparation hearing, Kaelin briefing, Ironmark scene calibration dispute on the docket. She had said at the door, "Come back." He said, "Yes." "Not I'll try." "Yes." The awakening completed mid-morning. No thunder. No light column. No technique names spoken aloud, because he was not that kind of person, and the core was not that kind of power. The sovereign core finished its reorganization, cracks from year 15 becoming structure, Saint conviction becoming anchor capacity, understanding becoming field. His aura expanded. Not as domain. Not as combat zone. As resonance. It passed through the tomb's walls the way music passed through closed doors, not by breaking them, by finding the medium already present and offering a reference frequency. Through stone. Through earth beneath Kareth's old capital layers. Through sea seams westward where Solhaven's maritime calibration teams had been working blind for decades. Through Ironmark's northern flank, through Thornwald's storm corridors, through Hereth's southern deserts, through Demon Peace faction domains where Lord Keth's scholars had kept records of a phenomenon they had not seen in 300 years. Every aura field it touched, not overwhelmed, not subordinated, offered alignment. A frequency they could match if they chose, retaining individual character, retaining diversity, finding coherence without uniformity. The world's damaged, complicated field began, slowly. The process would take years to align. Not simplify. Resonate. Strong enough that when the exterior came, when the convergence arrived in approximately 10 years, it would find no weakness to push through. Kael stood in the central chamber and was still. He felt everything. That was the cost no one had dramatized in Mar texts. Anchor meant listening at scale. Frontier barony relay stations humming new calibration. Valdorath court chambers where a clerk copied field health indices without knowing his ink was being verified against a living reference. Ironmark soldiers on Northern Watch feeling inexplicable steadiness in cores they would describe later as good wind because soldiers did not say resonance. Demon galleries in the tomb's lower levels where scholars looked up from texts and paused, then continued, then paused again. Lyra on a thorn-walled road cursing weather with vocabulary that suddenly felt slightly less necessary. Damien in an academy classroom forgetting his next sentence for 1 second because the room's field had shifted toward honesty. Aldrich in the barony study rubbing his left wrist where old injury ached less for no medical reason he would accept. Gareth in a chair by a map he could still read without climbing stairs, gruff and alive, saying nothing because nothing required saying. Seraphine in the Valdorath Chancellor's office signing an order with her hand, studying the way it stilled when she decided. He felt that too, precise and close even at distance, and filed it in the place where he kept things that changed the map without changing the record. Not invasion of privacy. Connection. The lattice doing what Valdorath had wanted without amputation. The expansion did not stop at Ardenvast's political borders. It did not colonize. It offered. Fields that refused remained refused, demon domains with autonomy protocols, guild corridors with commercial shielding, pockets of order remnant gray where chapel endowments still hid rot. The anchor did not burn rot out. It made rot easier to locate by contrast. Years of work ahead. Decades perhaps. 10 years until Convergence. The timeline Valdorath had left like a wound dressed badly, now visible in court calendars Seraphine would enforce with devastating precision. Kael breathed. Still standing. Still in the chamber. The resonance settled into sustained presence, not spike, hum. The world had not contained this in 300 years. The world contained it now. Not saved. Defended. He did not hear her come in. He was not surprised when he saw her. Seraphine stood in the chamber doorway, travel coat, court documents in left hand, right hand empty, expression settled 2 seconds before the rest of her face completed the journey from road fatigue to assessment. She had ridden from Valdorath in 2 days. She would have the Chancellor's office running from relay by hour 14 regardless. She said, well. He said, it worked. She said, how do you feel? He said, like, everything is very loud and very quiet at the same time. She sat next to him on the stone bench thus, had insisted on padding with medical practicality, thin cushion, unacceptable color, functional. She said, the reports will need to be written. He said, yes. She said, Kaelin will want a briefing. He said, yes. She said, the Convergence preparation requires a 10-year calendar. He said, I know. She said, and after that? He said, after that, we'll see. She said, good answer. They sat in the tomb where an emperor had fallen and an anchor had risen. Wind in archive corridors. Lamp low. Her shoulder half-inch from his, proximity tolerance obsolete, marriage grammar, partnership visible in function. Not labeled. Sufficient. Outside Kareth, coalition banners were gone, replaced by scholar wagons and calibration teams. Inside Valdorath, the court's next hearing waited. Inside the field, 10 years counted down toward an exterior that had not been invited and would not find the seams it had exploited 300 years ago. The frontier baron's son and the Villainess had made something out of nothing twice, once a kingdom's stability, once the world's future grammar. The Chancellor would hold court. The advisor would translate aura into action. The anchor would listen. Gareth would say less poetry and stay by maps. Aldrich would cry at the next occasion that required crying. Lyra would insult committees accurately. Damien would teach honest history. Veth would verify autonomy. Harn would vote yes while pretending discomfort. The world would keep being damaged and diverse and complicated and worth protecting. Kael did not dramatize the weight. Weight settled into resonance the way weight always settled when he had no time for poetry, pins and ledgers and courier schedules, and a hand held 1 second longer than vows required. Seraphine reorganized her document stack. He would write the reports. She would schedule Kaelin's briefing. The 10-year calendar would become law and argument and seem calibration and academy modules and demon scholarly review. After that, they would see. That was not surrender. That was the only honest answer a man who had learned to understand rather than force could give about a future that had not arrived yet. Night February 3rd, year 19, Kael updated the master ledger in the tomb archive office. February 3rd, Transcendence complete. Anchor resonance field, not domain. Passes walls, earth, sea. Offers reference frequency, no overwhelm. World field aligning slowly toward coherence. Years process. Exterior weakness closing. Seraphine arrived. Reports pending. 10-year convergence calendar acknowledged. He closed the ledger. Some entries belonged only in the place where maps changed without announcing themselves. He slept 4 hours. Distortion none logged. Victory ordinary. Ordinary trusted. Morning would bring relays. Morning would bring work. The convergence was 10 years away. The world was not saved. It was defended. The anchor was in place. Enough for February 3rd, year 19. Enough for a long while. Building continued. Same hands. Less red. More blue in the field. Amber complete. Resonance sustained. He closed the ledger. She was already drafting the calendar. He joined her at the desk. Partnership visible in function. Not labeled. Sufficient. February 4th dawn. Relay birds departed Kareth in 6 directions. Court field health bulletin. Kael royal briefing summary. Demon peace faction autonomy verification packet. Ironmark northern seam acknowledgement. Academy curriculum addendum draft. Frontier barony personal letter to Aldrich that said I'm well and nothing else because Aldrich did not need poetry from his son to understand what had happened. Kael wrote the field health bulletin first. Seraphine edited 3 sentences. He accepted 2. They argued about the third for 11 minutes. They resolved it the way they resolved most arguments. Accuracy over victory. Gareth's reply arrived February 5th. Good. Hold the map. Kael read it twice. Filed useful. The map was not pins anymore. The map was frequency. Frequency required holding. He would hold it. 10 years. After that, they would see. The calendar on the desk already had year 20 through year 29 marked in Seraphine's hand. Hearings, calibrations, convergence milestones. Space left blank where life would insert problems no institution could predict. Blank space was not weakness. Blank space was honesty. The frontier baron's son and the Villainess had learned honesty the expensive way. They would not stop now. Resonance sustained. Work continued. Same hands. Less red. More blue. Enough for a long while.